That's a good stat.
He will be playing against Ian Kendall, though. Ian is playing mono red aggro. So,
all right, this is one of the sort of quintessential matchups of the developing metagame.
Yeah, I know during Pro Tour testing, a lot of people will talk about metagames in terms of levels. And at least going into the Pro Tour, a lot of people assume that mono red was level 1.
Yeah.
It was, you know,
the default.
It was the default. What can people play? They'll play, I think people said mono red, Esper, and green white were like the level 1 decks.
Yeah.
A lot of people got to the point where they didn't think anyone at the Pro Tour was going to play mono red, so they actually played a lot of decks that were good against the field but bad against mono red. I'm not sure if Devotion falls into that category, but I don't know how much of a great matchup it actually has here.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one. I mean, the creatures obviously don't match up too well from the blue deck, but
they have this one card. Frostburn Weird's good. It's
okay.
Acceptable.
Nightfall Specter's okay, but Master of Waves.
Like most matchups, the Master of Waves is very important to it.
As we say in the business, the Stone Unbeatables. That card is the card in this matchup.
Yeah, against any deck that can't remove Master of Waves is a complete beating. And it has Pro Red, so it's probably not going to be removed here.
Yes.
We see also Swailes has the advantage that he gets to run 4 Tidebinder Mage in the main, and his opponent has a couple of red creatures.
Yep. Tidebinder Mage, a card that when it's not good, it's just a Grizzly Bear, but when it is good, it is Necrotol. It is so good.
So we're going to see Ian on the play during our first game here, which, you know, is obviously very important for mono red decks.
Yes. Especially with Master chilling at 4.
Yeah.
You got to get underneath that, otherwise you're going to be too far behind.
So Ian's going to start out with Fire Drinker Satyr on turn 1. He is playing 8 1-drops currently in the deck. He has the full set of Cacklers and Satyrs, but none of the other options.
I like that. I think the Foundry Street Denizen is probably just a little underpowered.
Yeah. So we see Satyr hits for 2, and Ian did not keep a second land. It looks like he had he hit the land, he had a draw of Burning Tree, Shortcutter.
Yup. A super powerful draw if he hit that second land, but he did not. Shock gonna take out the Promo Judge's Familiar. Make you pay one.
Swailes gonna counter it unless he pays one. Does he hit that? And he does hit the mountain, so
that's huge.
We have a game here.
That's huge, and he knows it.
And Firefist Striker. So Ian Kendall just dumps onto the board with his hand onto the board with 2 Burning Tree Emissaries and actually a Firefist Striker here, leaving in his hand Boros Reckoner and Goblin Shortcutter.
It's a pretty good board in hand for wow, and now Michael's missing land drops.
Yeah, Michael had kept a 2-lander. He had Tidebinder Mage and Frostburn Weird. I think Michael missing the land here is going to be way more punishing though.
Yeah. When Ian missed his land drop, he was already ahead on board. When Michael missed his, he was way behind. And now we see another 7th edition Shock take out the Mutavault that was going to try and block the Firefist Striker.
Swailes is at 8, and that should be, draws another Mutavault, so now he can block this turn with it and go to 2, but the rest of his hand looks like it's not going to reach the board in time.
Yeah. Far too little, far too late.
Mutavault throws its way in front of Firefist Striker. Swailes will go down to 2. And then we see a follow-up play of Rakdos Cackler Unleashed.
Why not?
Yeah, I don't think there's a draw here that'll get this for Swailes. He does hit the island on the last turn.
Wow, that's lucky.
Yeah, well, but that will not be enough. So Kendall takes game 1. Well,
I was going to say, you know, being on the play was really important, but Michael just missed land drops and died. But it did seem like he would have gotten under a normal draw at least a little, at least enough where he could.
Well, on the draw, Ian actually hits his Burning Tree Emissaries on curve because Ian basically put Michael on the play when he did nothing turn 2.
Yes. I think that's the type of draw that you're looking for as the mono red deck.
Well, minus the 1 land part.
Right. But getting on board like that heavily, that quickly, seems like the way that you're going to win.
Absolutely.
So, sideboard.
Okay.
Blue has some Walls of Frost.
Yeah, and that to me definitely says that Michael does not feel like he can race in this matchup.
Right. That seems like a pretty big concession to not wanting to enter straight up race situations. He'd rather have a little more control over what's going on. He also has 3 Ratchet Bombs, which I imagine are coming in.
Yeah, Ratchet Bomb's an interesting choice in this matchup because, you know, Michael plays a fair amount of 1 and 2 drops himself.
True.
Nonetheless, I would say he's just trying to survive until a Master of Waves, which seems like, you know, or even just a Jace, like one of his any of his 4 drops seem like what he wants to get to.
Yeah, and that makes sense. If you can have these, you know, speed bumps along the way to get you up to your super powerful cards.
Yeah. From Ian's sideboard, we have a couple of options here. It looks like he has some number of he has 3 Mizium Mortars in his board, which could potentially be against a creature deck. He has a pair of Electrickeries, which there are some number of 2/1s. I don't, you know, there are Cloudfin Raptors, Judge's Familiars, and there could be Vaporkins. There are not. He doesn't know that.
What about the tokens? Does he get those?
That does take care of the tokens.
All right.
So that's
something.
Yeah, that's something that actually for the answers the part of Master Waves that you're most worried about.
Yeah.
How would you board in this matchup, though? There's a chance you just don't board.
I was gonna say, like, what are you really taking out? I mean, the Fire Drinker is not fantastic, but besides that, everything is pretty solid. And I mean, you probably want Electrickery, but I don't know if any of the other cards are worth it.
So he's mostly on the game 1 deck. Of note, I want to say in Ian's deck, Ian is no stranger to red decks. He actually has a standard open win with red-black.
All right.
I think back in the zombies, in the zombie era, and he's playing 21 Mountains and no Mutavaults.
I did notice that. You know, gotta cast those Boros Reckoners on time.
Yeah, so he's playing the Fanatic of Mogus build. This is something we saw Philip Bertorelli win the first post-Theros Open with.
Yep.
And he was also on no Mutavaults, so this is a similar approach to the deck.
And, I mean, I like Fnatic a lot, and I think that you can play Fnatic straight up, but Mutavault is just so good in all of your, like, important matchups. Like, Mutavault is too important against Esper not to play, in my opinion. So I think that there's, you know, room for some deviation there.
You have to play it as a spell though. When you're like, do you play it in a spell slot because it just doesn't cast anything?
The mono red list that I proposed was 23 lands with 2 Mutavaults.
Okay, so his is 21 lands with no Mutavaults.
Yeah.
So that's really treating them as spells.
On the other side, we have another Jace, the Walls, and Ratchet Bombs. Yeah. Coming out, probably just some of the lower, like the creatures that can't fight.
Yeah, he has Cyclonic Rifts in the deck, which I can't imagine. I mean, they buy him sometime.
Biden's definitely coming out.
Certainly comes out in the matchup.
Then, like, Judge's Familiar,
something
like that.
I mean, Judge's Familiar is good when you're an aggro deck, which he's not in this matchup. I think the only reason he'd keep it in is if he thought the card could trade, but the only card it trades with in the deck is Fire Drinker Satyr, so I think it's unlikely that Judge's Familiar stays in.
Yeah, I mean, you might want it just as a dude to overwhelm Fire Fist Striker if you were really scared of that.
Yes,
I guess
it does also trade with Fire Fist Striker, you're right.
Like Cloudfin Raptor could also come out instead of the Judge's Familiar.
Yeah, there are a lot of, when building the mono blue devotion deck, the 1-drops are all fairly small. What is it? Cloudfin Raptor typically does not become bigger than a 1/2 in the matchup.
Yeah.
And we saw Michael Swailes. It appears he's kept a very defensive hand. It's all lands and double Wall of Frost.
Shields up.
Yeah, shields up for sure. Ian's going to start out with a Rakdos Cackler. We see second island from Swailes. And yeah, he has 3 more islands, a Mutavault, and 2 Wall of Frosts.
Ian likes his white borders. He's got those 7th edition shots with his revised lands.
All right, so Cackler will swing in. First damage puts Swailes down to 18. Both players on 7 here. Looks like just 2 lands from Kendall and a bunch of action.
Yeah, his hand looked pretty stocked.
Yeah, the danger in the draw that Swailes has kept is going to be Fanatic of Mogus in this game.
Yeah.
You know, all of Ian's cards have tons of red mana symbols. I don't believe he has a Fanatic yet in his hand, but that card will be very scary.
Absolutely. And even here, we see the Wall of Frost. You know, Swailes is hoping that it's his savior, his stabilization, but a hasty creature, say the Ash Zealot, hiding in the back of Ian's hand, turns on battalion, and no more blocking for that wall.
Right, so Fire Fist Striker, and we're going to see exactly that play. Ian, despite drawing the third land, makes Ashes Outlet. Fire Fist Striker, you know, it cuts its way past the wall of frost, 6 damage in, and puts Swailes down to 12.
Once again, a very aggressive draw versus kind of stumbling. This time it's land heavy rather than land light.
Yeah, he has a second wall of frost. For the turn, Michael drew a Thassa, which once he has both Wall of Frost in play, will be activated. He'll have a Thassa and then that Mutavault, so he'll have a lot of action.
All right, that's step 1.
Yeah, step 1 is get a lot of walls in place.
Yes. Shock for Ian there.
Because Ian now with a Shock and Lightning Strike has Michael basically at 7. He can start contemplating swinging into these Wall of Frosts.
Yeah, I like doing that now, especially with the Mutavault on board tapped. Get your damage in while you can, and...
Yep, and he's going to do that. Plays Boros Reckoner for the turn, cuts past a wall, 1 wall blocks Fire Fist Striker. Ian will go down to 8. Remember, he is at 3 virtually, thanks to all the burn in Ian's hand. This is a really tough spot for Swailes. He doesn't actually have any removal. Or like any, sorry, he doesn't have any life gain, so...
Yeah, there's no Sphinx's Revelations to dig you out of this. Ratchet Bomb a little late, but convenient on the mana if that's the route he chooses.
He makes a Thassa here. He has the choice between leaving up Mutavault and casting the Ratchet Bomb, and he, I think, wisely goes with the Mutavault and just really trying to preserve his own life total.
Yep, I like it. The Ratchet Bomb's going to be a little too slow. Rather just trade off if possible. And another Thunder Strike from Ian.
Yeah, that second Lightning Strike is the 8th point of burn in Ian's hand.
That is theoretical lethal. We have counter magic or something?
Yeah. Well, actually, no, Ian has extra. He has Shock, Magma Jet, Lightning Strike. So he actually has 10 points of burn here.
That is a lot of fire.
It's a lot. Yeah, that's. So Swailes is going to use the Scry ability off Thassa to go ahead and put it on. He scries to the bottom. It looks like he draws Tidebinder Mage for the turn. You know, outside of all these burn spells, I think Swailes really has stabilized on the board.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how the mono red game plays out.
Yeah. Get you low enough that I can throw enough fire at you.
Yeah, so we see the Tidebinder Mage there. A card that's actually a 4 of in the main deck of Mono Blue Devotion, thanks to the fact that it has 2 blue mana symbols. Also, sometimes in matchups when you're against a red player or a green player, can be a pretty good card to have in the main.
Yeah. I wonder how many at the Pro Tour, how many like main deck Tidebinder Mages were played where the opponent asked to see the deck list. Like, it's like, Judge, no way this guy's doing this.
Is that actually happening? I think a lot of people knew that Mono Blue Devotion was a deck, but it's still, you know, as someone who's playing red-green, it still was like kind of eye-rolled that they have 4 of them in the main.
Yeah.
You know.
I just imagine like a kid at his first PT, you know, not in the know, getting blown out.
So Swailes goes ahead and swings with Thassa. He has to make it unblockable thanks to Boros Reckoner. And Kendall's going to end step.
Light you up.
Yeah, it is. It looks like he's using Magma Jet, and he has Fanatic of Mogus and Mountain as his top 2 cards. just in case you're wondering whether or not he had a
still had
lethal
all
burn.
Of these.
Yeah, so he's gonna draw the Mountain and double Lightning Strike, and that should be the game. Bzz. And still on top had a Fanatic Mogus for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It would have been for 8 when you drew it.
Interesting.
So,
what do you start at in this game?
Yes,
20?
20.